cannot decide whether this is a good idea or a bad idea, but we're gonna try to read 7 books in 7 days anyways. Hi, hey there, welcome back to the channel. My name is Margaret, and today we're going to be talking about some books that I picked up in preparation for SteamyLit Con. I'm about to visit California for the first time that isn't a layover in ever, and I'm going to be going to SteamyLit Con, which is a romantasy themed book conference. Full disclosure, I am mostly going because I have friends that I'm going to be there at the conference with. It also happens to be a conference that has a lot of authors that I've been meaning to get to. You know how it is. You see a pretty cover, someone mentions it in a video, it's an author you've been following, and you throw it on the TBR, the never-ending TBR that you have a Goodreads or Storygraph or in your book journal, wherever you put that thing, and then you forget that it's there. And so I decided to use SteamyLit Con as an opportunity to get some of those books, like actually, finally, check them out. I have chosen 7 books that are by SteamyLit authors, and I'm going to be trying to read them in 7 days. 6 of these are authors that I have not read from before. One of them is an author that I love and adore, and I know I'm going to her signing. And then the rest of these, I'm trying to see, do I want to take these books or purchase these books from these authors and get them signed at the conference? The books we will be talking about in this vlog, most likely. If you're seeing this, I have reached some level of success. I'm not putting a lot of pressure on the Olivia Day book, specifically because I already know I love her work and I'm going to love anything she publishes. The books that I'm going to be reading are The Inheritance of Orquídea Divina by Zoraida Cordova. Zoraida is someone that I have known of for a while. Like, I've seen her books floating around on the internet. I've heard people talking about them, but I first got interested in her listening to her talk about some of the stuff that she's written on the Write or Die podcast. I believe this is her newest book. She might have another one that just came out, but like, this is her newest book that was on my TBR. I'm also going to be finally picking up some Ashley Poston and reading The 7-Year Slip. My friend Aoife over at Pretty Purple Polka Dots has been harassing me to read this book ever since I told her I was interested in reading the book. Not only have I been interested in reading Ashley Poston's book for work for years, now I have personal stakes to actually see if I like her. We will see how this goes. After that, I picked a book that has been on my shelves for a while, and that is The Marriage Game by Sarah Desai. At this point, I don't even remember. I think I picked it up because it was a Pride and Prejudice retelling, or she said it had Pride and Prejudice vibes on her Twitter. If you see a book that I own, there is a very good chance that if I didn't get it from a book box, I got it off of Twitter or I got it because of a friend's recommendations. But a lot of these are authors on my physical TBR. I got the book off of Twitter probably. I don't know what it is about Twitter that is dangerous to me as my wallet. After that, I have At First Spite by Olivia Day. This is Olivia Dade's newest book. Again, I love her spoiler alert series, and so I really want to read the rest of her backlog, and then I wanted to pick this up ASAP because I knew it was her newest book. If I don't get to this, it will not be the end of the world. Like I said, this is thrown in there so it would be an even 7 books, and I knew I was going to her signing, so it was an easy pick, but also it doesn't have to happen. If it doesn't happen, it's fine. I tell myself. I'm still going to be very disappointed. I'm also picking up The Wedding Crasher by Mia Sosa. This is a book that Brianna has been harassing me to read, and I know that Brianna is going to be going to Mia Sosa's signing, so I figured, why not? Time to take a crazy chance. My friend likes it. I know we're gonna go see her, or my friend is going to go see her. Why not pick a book that I know I would have a buddy to wait in line with? This is a companion novel to her first book, so I think technically I don't have to have read the first novel to read the second novel, because I asked Brianna, I was like, which one should I read? And Brianna was like, you should read The Wedding Crasher. I'm not gonna argue with that, so I went and I picked up this. Then we have another one that I got. I don't even know why I got this. I don't remember, at least with The Marriage Game, I remember kind of what I got when I got it, but I got The Trouble with Hating You by Sajni Patel. I saw she was going to be there. I knew I had the book on my shelf from my romance try a chapter thing that I did, and so I was like, well, let's just see, let's try, let's read it and see how I feel. So we're gonna read it and we're gonna see how I feel. And then the last one is an author I have been meaning to get to for 5 years at this point, and that is Alyssa Cole. I'm going to be reading A Princess in Theory. I knew this book was about once upon a time, but I see Alyssa Cole's work recommended all the time. I have seen this book recommended so many times, and I was just like, this is it. This is the time. Those are all of the books. Now it is time to get into me reading the books so we can see, is it just another book that I read and it existed, or is it something that I am going to want to put on my shelves for the rest of time? Hello. There's been a change in plans. I went out and picked up The Inheritance of Orquídea Divina And then decided promptly that what I wanted was a contemporary rom-com, which I know that I do believe that this is more, it's not. I was just like, I just really wanted to read something silly and sexy. Originally, we were going to be playing Libby Chicken, in which case I did need to read the Zoraida Cordova book. But since I was able to nab it from my library before anyone else did, we're good there. This was the correct choice to put in. Okay, here's the deal. If this is not a Pride and Prejudice retelling, then clearly whatever I have read is not Pride and Prejudice, because, like, we've got the entire setup. We have Layla. She's got a big family. Her dad runs an Indian restaurant, and she has come back after something has happened. We don't know what, but it's something that's happened professionally. She is someone who does, like, she job hunts for people. She's come back because something happened in, I believe it was New York. I read the first chapter, like, 2 months ago. It's fine. She's come back from the East Coast, and her dad's like, well, why don't you set up in the office that is above the restaurant? Let's do that. I will tell the person that has a lease currently, that was planning on leasing it, that we're not, like, family comes first. He then proceeds to have a heart attack and is in the hospital when Sam shows up and is like, hey, I'm leasing this office. He is a corporate downsizer. And I just know this man has Jack Welch's books on his bookshelf unironically. He shows up and he's like, I'm leasing this space. And she's like, well, my dad said I could have it. So that means you can't. And so we are currently in, like, this, him trying to figure out what to do. Because she's like, well, my family owns this restaurant. You think I'm going to stop? Like, it's great. It's so annoyed with each other. Like, I kind of pegged what some of the characters are. Like, the Georgina character, his sister, in this case, it wasn't that, like, she was taken advantage of as a teenager, but that she was married off to an abusive man, and the family didn't know that. They didn't, he hid that from them until after the marriage, and she has been disabled because of his abuse. Which there was a moment there where, like, he's at the beginning where he, like, is like, oh, here, let me help you with a wheelchair, and just, like, doesn't wait for her to say if that's okay. And I'm like, bro. I hope that there's gonna be a storyline there with him allowing her to, like, her being able to be like, no, you've got to let me do these things. And then we've met her sisters and her mom and all of that, and we've met her cousin, who I believe is supposed to be the Collins-esque character. And if she is, I really appreciate that twist. I'm not sure yet. I'm only 38 pages in. I'm gonna go read some more, but I fucking hate this chair. I cannot tell you how many times I have tried to find what is squeaking and, like, spray it with WD-40, and it hasn't worked. Hello, I guess this is where I'm filming all of my updates for now, because my room is a disaster. In my defense, I've been traveling. So, and it takes time to undo months worth of disaster. I am on page 246. We're almost done with this thing. It's good. It's not anything, like, particularly spectacular. This isn't one that I will be starting new religions over, but I am having a great time reading it, except for the existence of Bentley. Like, I understand his place in the plot. I understand what's going to be happening with this. I hate this man with such a deep, fiery passion. Like, at least Lady Catherine de Bourgh, for all of her faults, was a girl boss. This man is just a fucking asshole. What happens is they start out with this very antagonistic relationship, and then very quickly, she finds out that her father has gone and found suitors for her. Her father is trying to arrange a marriage for her because she's had several bad relationships, and she's like, you know what? Maybe I should give this a chance, because I haven't had the best taste in guys, and maybe my dad, in trying to find someone that he thinks I will do well with, maybe as someone who can see me from the outside, I should give this a chance. Because her father is in the hospital, she ends up asking Sam to pose as her male relative, and for reasons that are Sam is dealing with, Sam goes, okay, fine. Like, he is not a big fan of arranged marriages. Now, Sam is not a big fan of arranged marriages, and, like, even though he's trying to get her out of the office, he's still also like, okay, but what if she ends up with what if the person that she ends up meeting is someone like the man that my sister married? They make a deal that if she can find a husband, she lets him have the office, and if she cannot, he lets her have the office. And they're going to work together in peace. We also have his business partner, who's an absolute, Bentley, who's an absolute fucking prick and deserves to be hit by a bus. It's so funny. The dude is like, oh, he just has issues with social skills and empathy. And I'm like, no, he is an entitled prick. That's what he is, who doesn't think anyone besides himself is important. That's what it is. Like, not even Sam. They end up starting kind of a rivals with benefits thing, which very quickly turns into them bonding and realizing that they like each other. They've been attracted to each other from the beginning. They've noticed things about each other that they like personality-wise since the beginning. It's just one of those things that they're like, well, this person is in the way of a goal of mine, so I don't like them. We're about to go into the third act breakout, although they're barely together. So I don't even know what's going on, but yeah, so far it's good. We'll see how she handles this, because we just had something happen in which Bentley has done the thing which makes me want him to get hit by a bus. So I know, in context of this as a Pride and Prejudice retelling, I know what is probably coming. And it's going to be happening a lot more quickly, I think, than it happens in the actual, the source material. But the way that she's setting this up is very intriguing to me. I'm very excited. I have finished The Wedding Crasher by Sarah Desai. I'm giving this 3 stars. And it's a 3-star that'll stay on my shelves because I'm going to continue on with the rest of the series, and I have a feeling I will really like the rest of the series as well. Here's my thing with this is, this is fun. It comes together really well. It does the job it is supposed to do. It's a great little rom-com. There are just a couple things where I'm just like, this is on a behavioral level of human beings doing this. Suspending my disbelief felt a little uncomfortable. The way it came together at the end was so fun and so cute, and I knew that was exactly... Layla is a menace, okay, guys? She is a menace, but I love the way that she kind of took power back and made the situation what she... I felt a little manipulative, but also it's a rom-com. There are certain things I will let slide in a rom-com because it's supposed to be big and cheesy and romantic, and it's supposed to fulfill a fantasy, and some people, that's what they want. That's what they want to see. So yeah, I had a good time. There are a couple of things that I don't know. I wish they had been a little bit more subtle when it came to, themes and stuff. The self-loathing that Sam has just felt like a lot of it we're being told how much he hates himself, instead of really being shown it. Or letting her let us make the assumption. There are a couple of things that are like that, in the way that, the source material, it's there in the story, you can see it. So we didn't necessarily need to be told it as many times as we were. And that started to grate on me a little bit. He did learn a few things when it came to his sister and independence and things like that, that I wish maybe we covered a little more. Anyways, it's good. I had a great time with it. I don't know if I'm going to take this to be signed, potentially. I'm not entirely sure yet. But I will, I'm thinking about it. And I might, while I'm out there, I might just go ahead and get I think it's a trilogy, the next 2 books, while I am out there. I need to start planning on how much I'm going to spend on books, so I, give myself, a semblance of a budget for when I'm out there. I'm moving on to The Wedding Crasher by Mia Sosa. This is one of Brianna's favorites, and since I'm going to SteamyLit Con with Brianna, I felt like I needed to read this book. I definitely want to see if this is going to be one that I want to buy and get signed and all of that stuff while I'm out there. The goal is to take as few books as I need to. I think I'll take my Olivia Dades, I think, because I have, spoiler alert, and all the feels. And then I will probably take this one to get it signed if I decide to go to her signing. And then, the rest of it I plan on buying and taking back with me in checked luggage. If you can hear someone talking loudly outside, that's the power company. My power is off currently because they're doing some repairs or something, which I knew. I just didn't realize it was happening at 8 a.m. I don't have much time to talk with y'all, but I have made some progress in The Wedding Crashers, enough to at least be able to tell you what this book is about. We're following Solange and Dean. Dean is getting married. He's kind of made himself an arranged marriage, and he is not going to, he's marrying her because they have compatible life goals and they have similar values. he's not in love with her, and he has some stuff that went on with his parent that means he's not really interested in love. His mom has kind of turned him off to the whole idea. This woman wants to marry someone else, though. She's in love with someone else. And our main character, or the other main character, Solange, finds that out. And so she naturally is like, well, he can't marry someone who's going to want to be with someone else the entire time they're in the relationship. That's just awful. And she has personal experience with seeing that happen in her family. So she interrupts this wedding because she sees this bride having a moment with someone who's not the groom. And she's like, hey, you neither of you deserve to have this happen. Like, you should marry someone that you're happy to be with and that you want to be with. This kind of screws up a whole bunch of plans for Dean because he was hoping that having a marriage would help him in his law firm and help him make partner, and it doesn't. And him not having a wife is going to be an issue for something that he has coming up. And so he approaches Solange and he's like, hey, can we say that we were friends for a long time and I fell madly in love, like realized I was in love with you after you interrupted my wedding, because I need a partner and someone that I'm in a committed relationship with for if I want to bag this job. And it's funny. They're great. We've got a lot of growing to do, and a lot of room to work with, but they are great. I'm enjoying this. So I will talk with y'all later when I have more time to talk about this book and have read more. I'm still like in the 30%-ish, and I have to be in Gainesville in 2.5 hours. So I'm gonna go. Well, good morning. Hello. I'm behind. It's fine. It's Friday. We started this, Tuesday? I have finished The Wedding Crasher by Mia Sosa. 5 stars. This was so good. it was perfect. It was it had the right amount of ridiculous rom-com with, sweet sentimental stuff. Here's how I described the ending, or one of the scenes at the ending. There is a scene in a chapel, and it has the exact energy, not necessarily the exact events, but the exact energy of the ending of Much Ado About Nothing. If you're new here, hi, my name is Margaret, and Much Ado About Nothing is my favorite Shakespeare play to have ever existed. The way that this works is they enter into this, what ends up being a mutually beneficial agreement. She agrees to help him with this thing going on in his law school, and he ends up helping her with some stuff that happens with her family that ends up with them pretending to be a couple and having, they get forced proximity and, there's only one bet. And, these are things that evolve so naturally from the plot, from things that you were already told. You very much can build a plot around tropes. You just have to build a plot. I don't know if she started out being we're gonna do the whole forced proximity trope in this book, or if she started out with, you know what, the forced proximity trope would work really well with this story. I don't know. I don't care. It is perfect. I love her family. I love, they both have issues, as most of us do, from watching their parents do things. They have specific things that they want to avoid because they saw how it affected their parents' lives, or how they thought it affected their parents' lives. I love there's a conversation that we have between Solange and her mom, and it was beautiful and wonderful. I listened to this on the audiobook, and the audiobook was phenomenal. I didn't even feel weird about listening to a romance audiobook. Sometimes, and this happened with Son of a Beach, which is also by Mia Sosa. Sometimes when I'm listening to, what I've noticed is when I listen to romance books, sometimes the sex scenes tend to bug me a little bit more because my brain is more likely to go, that's a really weird thing to say or do. And when I'm reading it, my brain doesn't get taken out of the moment like that. Didn't happen with this audiobook, so that is fantastic. I had another point, I don't remember what it was. Okay. The one thing I will say is I do wish I had read this physically, because there is a lot of Portuguese, and it's not translated, which is fine. It shouldn't be, it doesn't need to be translated. We don't translate Latin or French in books. I'm not saying that. I just wish I had physically read it, because I know I probably would have had a better understanding of what they were saying if I had read it physically instead of listening to it, because I don't know if you know this, but there are a lot of languages that they share similar roots. And if you know one of the languages, you're going to be able to kind of get the gist for others. Normally what I would do is if I was okay, I actually want to know what they were saying, I would Google it. Because Google exists, but I was driving, so I couldn't do that. This is one of those where, they're dealing with some deeply held beliefs about relationships and what their worth is. And one of the things that I liked about this was that the issue was not that they didn't think they were worthy of love, but that they knew what they were worthy of, or what they thought they wanted, and they were refusing to compromise on that. And so it became a matter of one of them having to be convinced that this thing that they had been avoiding, that they were like, no, this just isn't for me, because of stuff, was in fact worth the risk. It was one of those things where it's like, this isn't something that's a deeply held belief. It's very clear they do want this thing, but they believe they're afraid of it. This was so much fun. I'm definitely going to go buy this one. I'm going to buy the first one. We are moving on to A Princess in Theory by Alyssa Cole, because I need to finish 2 books today. If I just say I started on Wednesday, can we still pretend like I did 7 books in 7 days? I have no idea what this is about, except that, like, I believe it's she falls in love with someone who's royal, and maybe she doesn't know it. I don't know. But it is short. I have the audiobook, and I have to do some cleaning today, because my levels of what I think a clean kitchen looks like in my mother, well, not, I won't say clean because it's not clean, but what I think a usable kitchen look like, and my mother's levels for me are different. Anyways, I'm gonna drink my tea. I'm gonna start this book. The one thing about listening to these on audiobooks is I do think that I could, like, read it faster with my eyes than I could listen, but I'm hoping I can get this done by noon. I don't even know if that's doable. Let's see, what is the audiobook on? This project is definitely going to put me on Libby's good side, because I'm reading books in like 2 days and returning them. There it is. Okay, it is an 11-hour audiobook. I listen to like at 1.8 speed. So definitely not by noon, because it is almost 10 o'clock. That's 2 hours. But I could definitely finish it in like 6. And then I can start another one. I'm 145 pages into A Princess in Theory, and this concept. Okay, so this is like the poster child for it works in fiction but does not work in real life, because like this is definitely something that if you are not in someone's head, run away. So we have Naledi and Thabiso, and the situation is Thabiso is a prince. And the lady has been getting emails because when she was a child, she was betrothed to him, like when they were toddlers. And so technically there is a marriage contract sitting, and it was like decided, and Thabiso like remembers her a little bit, like there's a picture, he has some memories, and he just kind of is like, you know what? I need to get rid of like this obsession with this person that I knew when we were children, so we just need to find her. Her parents fled his country of Solo and went to the US. I suspect I know why that happened based on a scene that we just had and some information that I just learned. I suspect I know why that happened. I also suspect I know what happened to her parents. They went to the US and then never came back. And so her family has been seen as traitors for years and years and years. And she was very young when her parents died in a car crash. And so she doesn't know who she is. Like, she doesn't remember any of that. She grew up in foster care. She is a scientist. I believe she's studying to be an epidemiologist. She works with viruses and stuff. And she is just kind of trying to get through her postdoc. And then he shows up at her job and tries to be a server, absolutely fails at it because he's a prince and has never had to do it, like, real hard work a day in his life. But, like, there's a connection. And what was going to be him, like, trying to get information about why her family left and all of this stuff turns into him being like, oh, I'm into her. And so now they've kind of started up this thing. He is renting the apartment across from her. He like, paid her neighbor so he could stay in the apartment across from hers. And, like, definite stalker behavior. And if this was a character and we were not in his head and we did not know all of his thoughts, like, this is the very good setup for a thriller. There are going to be consequences for this. I am absolutely aware, especially because his assistant, hold on, what is her name? Vikotsi has been trying to get in touch with the lady for, like, months because her DNA came back on a DNA test that the lady didn't even look at the test. Like, she was like, you know, this is silly. The results are probably bad, but she'd done it. Like, she'd been curious, and I was like, nah. But it flagged in the system over at the Solo, and so Naledi was able, or no, sorry, Lakotsi was able to trace Naledi through this. I love this sentence because it is, hold on, where is it? It's the next page. They say persistence is a virtue, and I consider myself most virtuous. I knew I was gonna love this book when I read that sentence or heard that sentence. I'm really enjoying it. I'm liking like the interactions between Naledi and Thabiso are like really interesting because it's very clear that like she's, because of her like being raised, she's very standoffish from people. She doesn't have anyone to take care of her, and this is her first time interacting with someone who's like, well, let me take care of you. More ways than one. I'm not sure how far we're going to get into this with her calling him Jamal, because that's not his name. He stole the name of somebody who was supposed to be starting work at her, basically paid the dude off at her place of work. It's going to be very interesting because I don't know how far we're going to get into this with him not telling her who he is and why he is, like, I feel like the beginning, it kind of makes sense because she assumed he was this person that was coming in to like, she was supposed to be training that day. So, like, at the beginning, it makes sense. And the fact, because he's a prince, it kind of makes, like, he could definitely be like, well, I just, like, I don't really advertise my identity. We're kind of getting into the place where her not knowing is kind of not cool. I also don't see this being a book where she, like, gives up all of her goals and what she's trying to accomplish in the US to go, like, live in Thesolo right away. Like, I feel like she's going to want to finish her postdoc. That might, like, she's having issues with one of her advisors, so I don't, maybe the plan is, like, what's going to happen is, like, she's going to get a better opportunity because she, you know, with connections, might get a better opportunity, over in the Solo or somewhere else near, like, in Africa. It's also very interesting because he is talking, like, part of the through line why Thabiso is here is he's supposed to be negotiating a deal with a company that wants to come in and mine minerals from them, and he's being very protective of his country and their land and not wanting to just let them come in and do that, which absolutely makes sense when you know, like, the record of what's going on in, like, Congo and Sudan right now. Like, it's not the main point, but she's still working in, Alyssa Cole is still working in some of the stuff that actually is relevant to a prince that lives in a country, not a country, on a continent that has been thoroughly colonized, and is still trying to make its way back from having so many of its resources stolen. And dealing with so many of its resources being stolen, because this is a continual issue that is being faced by multiple countries in Africa. I'm going to continue reading, but I wanted to check in with you. I like this. Okay, so here's the thing. Naledi reminds me a lot, and I don't know why I love these characters so much, but she reminds me a lot of Emma Swan. And if you don't know, Once Upon a Time was one of my favorite shows when it was airing. You can come at me for liking it, I don't care. But she reminds me a lot of Emma, and I love that type of character, or that storyline where you have a character who's very closed off, who's very, like, I am going to take care of me because I'm the only person I depend on, finding people that they can depend on. Hi, we are here. I may have done that thing where you start reading for a minute and you're like, I'll update the vlog in a little bit, but I'm going to read while I'm eating, and then I'm like 150 pages past where I should have updated. I did finish A Princess in Theory. We're giving this 4 stars. I really liked it. Anyways, I just really liked the dynamics between the two of them, and I liked how, like, the way that this one works, she doesn't, like, like, a lot of the time, I think in these kinds of situations, you have someone who is taken out of their life and they have no desire, like, there's nothing in their life that they want to return to, but she's really, like, she wants to be a scientist. She wants to be an epidemiologist. And her being those things are not anathema to the idea of her being in the royal family. And so I really like how that works out in the book. It was really cute. It was like, it almost has, like, that faded kind of lovers thing going on for it. It's ridiculous and cheesy. I had fun with that. I really liked how they worked through their initial meeting, kind of the deception that he used to get to know her. I thought that was handled really well, how they talked about that and how, like, he did work at rebuilding her trust a little bit. The one thing that I wish we had seen more of is, like, I felt like her going from no one wants me, no one loves me, I'm like defective Velcro, to, okay, yeah, I'm comfortable being in a place. Like, that felt like we needed a little bit more work on her, and that was the only thing that I could, like, that's the only thing I could say about this. I was, like, right about, to some extent, about what happened with her parents. To some extent. Like, not the entire extent, but, like, it just, if we're gonna rank these, I think so far, The Wedding Crasher, this one, and then The Marriage Game. That's how I'm gonna rank them. And then I currently am a little over halfway into the 7-year slip. Now, this one I am going into, I started reading this in June, and then I had to put it down because we moved. I read it for the Amazing Readathon. So I moved from teen, from romance to whatever the next, was it sci-fi that I did next? I don't know. Nobody cares about that in this vlog. And so I had to put this down because I wasn't supposed to be reading romances anymore. I was supposed to be reading sci-fi. I have been just having the best, this is going to be 5 stars. Like, unless something terrible is done, like, unless Ashley Poston really just beefs the landing, I am going to love this book. Just the way that Ashley Poston has set up this story, so many things that I love. I'm having such a good time. I'm texting Aoife in all caps. I actually can't tell you what this book is about because I am 193, I'm almost 200 pages into the book, 193 pages. And so we're following Clementine, and she has just recently moved into her aunt's apartment after her aunt died. She was really close to her aunt. They used to go on, like, they used to travel together and go on an adventure every year. And she's inherited this apartment from her aunt. And her aunt told her as she was growing up that the apartment was magical. Clementine thought that that was a little silly. That was, like, just her aunt being like, yeah, it's an amazing apartment or whatever. Turns out, it takes you back in the past 7 years. So she gets home from work one day, and there's a dude in her apartment named Ewan, and he is a, like, transplant to New York City who is subleasing her aunt's apartment. She figures out very quickly that, like, they're 7 years in the past, and so she plays it off like, well, I don't have anywhere else to live, so she plays it off like her apartment in New York, something's wrong, and her aunt offered it and hadn't realized that Ewan was going to be there. And they have a little moment in that weekend, and then when she leaves and goes to work that next Monday and comes back, he's gone. She's back in the present in her apartment and all of that good stuff. Turns out her publishing company or publishing house that she works for is currently courting his current day personage to be a cookbook author. Like, they need someone to replace their last person that did cookbooks, and they're set on him. And so, like, she remembers him. She's not sure if he remembers her, but based on some things, it seems to her like maybe he does. And it's just following that. And so we're going back and forth between her interacting with him in the past and in the present. And, like, it's very funny because, like, her initial kind of impression of him is he's very different in the present than he was when she knew him in the past. And it's hilarious because, like, as the reader, you can kind of see some of that past personality coming forward. So anyways, I'm loving this. I'm having such a great time, and I don't know if I will update you again before I get to the end of this, but I predict that this is going to be a 5-star. It looks much brighter in the camera than it is in my room currently right now. Like, you would think it was like 8 p.m., but it is in fact noon the next day. Exactly what I thought was going to happen happened, and I finished the 7-year the 7-year slip. What am I supposed to do with my life now? 5 stars. 5 stars. If I gave 6 stars, this would get 6 stars. I loved it. The way Ashley Poston did the back and forth between, like, the interactions that we occasionally got with, like, the past Ewan and then what we were getting from present Ewan. And I love the fact that, like, she highlights that sometimes when you change, you lose a little bit of yourself. But sometimes also that change is good. I don't know how to talk about this. Like, everything I love about this book is a spoiler. Like, obviously, we're reading a romance. I know how, we know how it's gonna end. There are people that would probably argue with me about whether or not this is a romance because there is some heavy stuff in there. We are dealing a little bit with our main character's grief over her aunt dying, and specifically her feelings in regards to how it happened with her aunt and some guilt that she's carrying because of that. Like, this is a 90s rom-com movie. I will be honest. Like, that's what this is. This is the kind of ridiculous plot you have in well, no, 2000. The ones that I'm thinking of are actually from 2000s. Like, this is the kind of ridiculous plot that you have in that one Reese Witherspoon movie that I can't remember the name of. I think it was Mark Ruffalo that was opposite her. It was one of those guys that looks like Mark Ruffalo type look, because she's a ghost and she's in a coma and he's a doctor. Like, it felt like it has that energy in this book. Just Like Heaven. Yes. Okay, I loved that movie. This feels like one of those types of movies where you have to get the lake. This was written for the girlies who love the lake house. And I love the way that they navigated why he hasn't come to find her in the last 7 years. Like, the way that works and the way things connect. I loved it so much. Wow, it is really going out there. Anyways, I meant to do this when we had full sunlight, but it got dark so quickly. I'm starting the trouble with Hating You. This is going to be an interesting one. So here's the thing. This is one of the ones that I read for my try-a-chapter romance video. It was a video. My try-a-chapter romance video that I did back in May. Was it May? I don't know. Time is fake. This got ranked really low on the list simply because I cannot stand the main character's father. Like, I know this is going to be a plot point. I know that there is going to be some growth either on our main character's part or on her father's part. Like, I know it's a part, but I know people have to deal with this. I know. But it's just like, I could not stand the man. And there were a few places like where the writing was weird and unclear in that first chapter. So I'm going to move on to this. I put this on the list because I figured if I was going to DNF one, it would probably be this one. And like, I would rather, like, part of this is I'm trying to get stuff off of my shelves and off of my TBR. So I'm reading a lot that I know I will like, but I'm also reading some that I'm like, this is a maybe. So far, we haven't had any losers yet. We've had, by the way, if we're curious, the ranking is currently, obviously, 7 Year Slip. And then, what books have I read? The Wedding Crasher. And then we have A Princess in Theory, and we have The Marriage Game. The premise of this is that I actually have no idea what the premise of this is. I just know that we had the first chapter where she shows up at her parents' house and she's been telling them, no, I do not want an arranged marriage. I do not want to deal with any of your whatever. Like, I'm not interested in getting married right now. And so she shows up at her parents' house to find out that they have invited over a suitor, and she literally runs into him as she is trying to escape her parents' house. Pisses her father the heck off. Feels bad because that's going to make things awkward for her mom, but she does not want anything to do with their machinations when it comes to her relationship. And then I believe they end up having to work together because he shows up at her job. So this sounds like we're going to end up with like some sort of, I don't know if I would call it rivals to lovers, but like, I don't think it's enemies to lovers either. Like, so basically they don't like each other at the beginning and they're going to learn to like each other better as they bond. Which is, I love that trope. I love that. I love plots that do that. Like, there is some chance of me really liking this. I will check in with you when I've gotten a little bit into this. I finally broke down and bought the audiobook for Zoraida Cordova's book, because if I'm going to get through 3 books in 2 days, I know, yes, that's what we've got. If you never hear me mention the deadline again, I guess I read stuff on Wednesday. Okay, so I am 120 pages in, and I'm remembering one of the things that, like, that's put me off on the first chapter, and it's something I think the main character definitely needs to work through. It's, like, there is a lot of trauma there, but the thing that I remember noticing is that, like, so the way the character is set up and the way we're supposed to, like, I think the writer wants us to feel about this character is that she doesn't take anyone's shit. Specifically, she doesn't take any shit from men. That's valid. That's an admirable thing to do. We'd be in a better world if more women did that. However, the way it comes off in certain scenes is like she's picking a fight. Like, we had a couple that worked really well, but, like, especially with the love interest, there have been places where it's just like, it feels like you're trying to pick a fight with him. I am liking how Sajni Patel is working through, like, them learning to trust each other, because, like, it involves our male love interest just in general being like, okay, you know what, this is the right thing to do. And, like, that kind of being something that is able to open things up between them. Because, like, he's an asshole at the beginning to her. And so that's frustrating as well, because, like, they just had this terrible impression of each other at the very beginning, and they're now letting it cloud their judgment when they're talking to each other. And like, on the one hand, like, I get where they're coming from. On the other hand, like, I don't know, I find like their automatic antagonism to each other, it felt kind of annoying. There's definitely some conversation being had in this about toxic masculinity and like the way we talk about women, and I'm really enjoying those conversations, and kind of like, I'm actually enjoying some of the, I don't know if it would be hypocritical, but like some of the inconsistency in our characters, because I feel like they're very human. Again, going back to the male love interest, like the biggest kind of thing we can see is that like there are times, like she has kind of a reputation amongst her community for being fast. And so it's very interesting to see how like in certain conversations, he's like, this is wrong for you to be talking about this person this way. Like, no, I'm not going to let you do that. But how he also is willing to participate in those conversations in a couple of scenes. We're also seeing some of them with the female main character. And it's like, as someone who has a complicated relationship with her parents, I feel some of that. So it just, I don't know if I want her dad to get redeemed at this point, because he sounds like an abusive asshole. And I don't know. I don't know. There's a whole thing going on with her mom, and like what the community stigma would be if her mom left her dad. And then some other stuff happening with stuff that's happened in the main character's past. Like, here's the thing. I know a lot of people want to go into a romance and they don't want any of the serious issues to be discussed. Like, they don't want romances like the Heart Principle, where a key part of the plot. And I don't think it should be, like, if it's the A plot, it's not a romance. But if it's a B plot and it's part of what the character is going through, I like seeing that in a romance. Like, in the same way that, like, 7 Year Slip, there are some people, because it deals with heavy subjects, would not consider 7 Year Slip a romance. And I don't know, I like this idea that you can be going through hard times and still find the love of your life at the same time. You know, it's not all like, oh, I moved to this small, sleepy town and suddenly I'm in charge of a Christmas tree farm, and oh no, like, I like these more serious romances that we're dealing with. And that kind of goes to something that I've been thinking about a lot, in that, like, a romance does not necessarily equal a rom-com. So, like, you can write a romance without it being a romantic comedy. I am not saying that it does not need to have a happily ever after or a happy for now. If it doesn't have those, it is not a capital R romance as of right now. But I do think that there is room in our romances for serious issues. And I think there is room in our romances for heavy things and for people going through shit. And I think that showing people in those positions being worthy of love and worthy of going through shit, even if, you know, stuff doesn't necessarily get resolved. Like, it's interesting. I'd be interested to see like role playing, like the issues in that. Some of them are not resolved by the end because they're issues that don't resolve. Yes, it would be nice to see them like tied up in a nice little bow, but that's not the reality. And I think that there is when you are writing a contemporary, there needs to be a balance between having a nice, neat story, but also having something that's realistic and feels authentic to your reader's experiences. There are places where it's hard to follow. Like, especially at the beginning. Like, there was a chapter I had to go back and reread because it felt like we had changed locations without us changing locations. We hadn't. Like, I went back and I figured out what was going on. But, like, it took a minute. So we're talking about, like, some of the stuff going on in the Mandir, and the Hindu religious services that she's attending and kind of going, and girl, like, there really isn't a religion that has a monopoly on judgy, gossipy bitches, because you really find them in every religious community. You really do. Like, it's so funny how I'm recognizing some of the people that she's running into at the Mandir, and I'm just like, oh, yeah, I've known those people at my churches. I feel that. Anyways, the key takeaways, I'm really liking, kind of, I guess, in the 80-page mark, starting around there, I really started liking the development between our two characters. and I'm glad I stuck through kind of the setup. The one thing I will say is, oh my god, our male love interest, oh, his dad died in a traumatic way and he's made it his entire personality. And like, it's made me realize, I've read so many books where like the dad dying in a, I'm just like, I would love a romance where the dude who has like his dad's death has a toxic effect on him has already recognized that and is already trying to work through it. Like, it's one thing when it's Anthony Bridgerton and people don't know what therapy is. It's another thing in the year of 2020. God, this was written in a world that didn't know what COVID was.
Hello, did I update you yesterday? No, I did not. We're not making it. We're not making it to 7 books. And that's fine because I already knew, like, the final book in this list is obviously Olivia Dade. It's At First Bite. And I already know I love her books. So, like, maybe that will be what I read on the plane or something like that. I don't know. But I did finish The Trouble with Hating You by Sajni Patel. I have mixed feelings about this book. I gave it 3 stars at the end of the day. There is, like, so here's the deal. It's like, I was back and forth in how well she executed this, because there are a lot of really powerful scenes in this book that I think are really important. There is a character in here that was molested as a child, and part of the plot is dealing with that, and the fallout from that, and I really liked some of the scenes regarding that. There were a few places where I was just like, this just doesn't feel great the way that we're handling this. So that's why it's not getting 4 or 5 stars. And also the very end of it felt a little anticlimactic, and I entirely think that's because of how the final scene was placed. I think if we'd had the final scene a little bit earlier, placed a little bit earlier, that I would have felt better, but I just found myself rushing through it because by that point I was like, I just want to be done with this book. Although it is a really good scene. I really liked it. I like how we kind of do a little bit of a reverse of a very common Hallmark trope. So I liked that. I really like some of the stuff that Sajni Patel is doing this in regards to flipping gender norms or discussing gender norms and flipping what you would expect from certain tropes and things like that. It's just some of the other stuff I wasn't really a fan of the execution. I will say I love Jay's family. I loved Jay's family, and I love the plot line that we kind of have with her mom, and what's going on there. I can definitely see kind of where that can go. I just, like, I'm going to check out the next book because I want to see what happens next. But I would have liked, this is one that I would have liked a little bit of an epilogue. I felt like it needed a little bit of an epilogue just because of where it ended. Obviously some of that we're going to see play out in book 2. I wish we'd gotten it here because while that final scene was great, it just didn't feel as satisfying as I would have liked it to if we'd gotten to see some of the fallout of that as well. Not fallout, but like the denouement. I have moved on to The Inheritance of Orquídea Divina. This is a dual timeline type of story. I believe this was comped to Encanto when Zoraida Cordova was pitching it to people and like talking to people about what it is. It is a little bit of a Magic House book, although like there's some stuff at the very beginning that happens, which means that well, you'll see. I'm really enjoying this. Like, I was hooked from the beginning, the way that we're doing this timeline. Because the timeline, it starts out with Orquídea Divina being like, hey, I'm dying. You need to come see me so you can get your fortune. And so she brings all of her children, her grandchildren in, all of that good stuff. And they start to find some stuff in the house that opens up questions. And she tells them, like, there's someone that's after them. Like, her own monster, she's not going to be able, like, they're not going to be able to escape it. Like, she's done her best, but, like, there are going to be consequences to decisions she made in the past, which gave her her magic. And then we're getting brief snippets of Orquídea Divina's life as she is, like, just different, like, really important moments in her life that kind of explains and lead, like, we as the audience or readers know what, we're getting an idea of what led her to be the way she is, while her family has all of these questions about it. There's some questions about, for example, Marimar's dad, what's going on with that, and then she, Ray, and Rhiannon, which is a, like, the great-grandchild of Orquídea, all have like these magical flowers on them, and there's a whole bunch of stuff going on. But I'm loving kind of the world building that's going on here. I'm loving this way that she's weaving in and out with the family history, with the present and the past, and I like plots that do that. And Zoraida Cordova is doing that in an amazing way. And so like this, I knew I was probably gonna like this, but I am liking this even more than I expected to. So I'm expecting this to be like 4 or 5 stars. I have a lot of errands to run today, so I will probably like just talk to you guys once I finish this, and then we'll wrap this thing up. Because this has to be finished today so that I can film the wrap up for it tomorrow. Welcome to the end of the vlog, where I'm going to give you my final thoughts on The Inheritance of Orquídea Divina by Zoraida Cordova, and then we're going to do my final ranking of these books and like kind of just final outgoing thoughts. So first things first, The Inheritance of Orquídea Divina. I really liked the play between what was happening in the present and then kind of slowly learning more about Orquídea's story and how that was attached to the past, not the past, to the present. Those are words. That's how time works. You have the past and then you have the present. Time is fake, guys. I really liked kind of this bonding that we had between these 3 cousins, which were Ray, Rhiannon, and Marimar. And like the way that all of this kind of tied together, fascinating. I can't tell you because it's a spoiler, but the way it tied together, it's a story. It is a family saga. It is about love and grief and like the complicated feelings about family, because we're definitely like watching these people struggle, especially our main character struggle with the fact that they love Orquídea, but also the fact that she is very closed off for reasons that aren't necessarily in her control, but like the fact that they have a lot of answers. There are a lot of things they wanted to know, a lot of explanations that they wanted growing up that they got frustrated with not having, especially because like anytime someone said, I want to leave Four Rivers, which is where they live, like she's just like, okay, bye, take your stuff, go. The writing in this is so beautiful, and the way that she does the characters, and the way she takes us through like how complicated people are. I love complicated people. It's just such a good time. 4 stars, really enjoyed it. This is like high up on the list. I haven't decided. I'm gonna buy so many books. I know I'm gonna buy so many books when I'm over there, and I haven't decided whether this is going to be one of them, but high chance, and then potentially like I might pick up some of her other stuff, because I know she publishes under Zoraida Cordova, and then she has like a romance author name that she publishes under. But let's get into final rankings. So At First Bite, obviously did not get to, it does not count. I did not read 7 books in 7 days. I read 6 books in 7 days, which is still pretty good. I'm gonna count that as a win. I already know I was gonna be picking this up and buying it and all of that good stuff. So like we didn't need to answer that question. I just was here for the heck of it, and because I needed 7 books. After that, I think we're gonna have to say The Trouble with Hating You by Sajni Patel. I really enjoyed what she was doing with some of this. Like that is part of why this is one that I was like, okay, like I had a good time. Like some of what she was doing with this was really interesting. I really like the interplay between our 2 main characters, and that, like the banter between 2 characters, that is what really sells me on, well, literally any relationship, honestly. Like any if there's not banter, at least in some small part in the book, I probably am not gonna have as much fun with it, regardless of genre. There just was stuff about like the way the characters, and I wish I could like bring up specific scenes, but I can't really think of specific scenes right now. But like there were specific instances where I was just like I feel like I shouldn't be rooting for these 2. And I don't want to have those moments when I'm reading a romance. I know there were scenes here where I was just like, I feel like, why is this happening? Why are they continuing? Like the workplace force proximity thing is what tied all of this together, but like, why are they pursuing this relationship when it's very clear that neither of them really, like, it's just, they just want to have sex. After that, we have A Princess in Theory by Alyssa Cole. I really liked these 2 and like them getting to know each other, and this is a case of like what happens in the book, not a great thing to have happen to you in real life, but because of the way it was handled in the story, it worked for me, if that makes sense. I liked how they got through it and they worked through it. Again, I felt like the emotional issues on her side needed a little more exploration, and I felt like the ending wrapped up a bit too neatly, but again, like some of what wrapped up, like it wasn't the main, it's not the A plot, it's the romance. It's something that needs to be wrapped up because we need it for the characters, but we don't necessarily need it to be wrapped up because it's important to the plot. I definitely need to read more Alyssa Cole. Like there's going to be more Alyssa Cole in my future. I don't know if she's going to be someone that like I have a whole shelf of, which you can with this author, I'm pretty sure.
but she's definitely somebody that I'm going to keep my eye on. I'm going to read more books in this series. I'm going to be reading more of her works. There's like strong new favorite author potential here, so we will see. After that, let's talk about The Marriage Game by Sarah Desai. Listen, one of the things that we discussed while I was reading some of these books and talking about like how I felt about them is that like books do not have to be your next favorite thing for them to be valuable and for them to be something worth you reading. I know we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to be finding the next 5-star read in the next book, and like why read a book if it's not going to be 5 stars, but sometimes there's nothing wrong with a book being 3 stars. That said, this book was a good time. The way they did like the whole rivals to lover, not rivals, but like, what is the word? Oh my god, I know this. I know. Kind of like a comedy of errors almost, where they're in this situation, they're dealing with the fact that she's got all of these suitors. I just loved their interaction and their banter, and I left this book being like, well, now I need to read every single book that is in it, like thinking, am I going to go buy every book when we get to SteamyLit? Because I think there's 3 books in this series. And so I'm like, I need to know the rest of them. I need to read the rest of them. I also need to see Bentley get hit by a bus. I still need that to happen. I'm kind of getting the feeling that that might not happen, but I still need it to happen, okay? I need this man to get hit by a bus because he just is so detestable. If this were Pride and Prejudice, he would be my Mr. Darcy, okay? Although I highly doubt that he would have a come to Jesus moment and write me a very long letter explaining why he was the way he was and then try and change. I highly doubt that. Long story short, highly recommend this. This was just, it's a good fun time. This is something that I was able to read. It was exactly what I needed when I read it. I was looking for something that was going to have those fantastic rom-com vibes. I really enjoyed it. Like, just a fantastic, fantastic time. Oh, one thing I do want to mention, because I think that it will this is something people will want to know. All of these have on-page sexy time scenes. This one, we have some sexy times, but they do fade to black. Towards, like, it's something that happens towards the end. It does fade to black. The Inheritance of Orquídea Divina. Again, I love this book. I'm not going to say much more about it because you've heard me talk about this one the most recently. If you're looking for a messy family book that's like multi-generational and you want those Encanto vibes with that little like sprinkling of magic on everything and the unexplained nature of everything, definitely pick this up. It's an experience, okay? Like, it is an experience and I highly recommend it. After that, we are going to be talking about The Wedding Crasher by Mia Sosa. I read this almost entirely while driving to and from Gainesville in a day. 5 stars. It was so good. I cackling the entire time. This was just like, how do you write a relationship that works this well? The ending, okay, the ending had me howling. The way they, like, resolved the 3rd act breakup, loved it. Just like their chemistry, their banter, everything going on between them, I loved it. It was so good. I had such a fun time, and if you pick up no other book, like, pick this one up and pick up the next book that I'm about to talk to you about. Hands down, the winner of this little challenge is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. I was like halfway through this book and I knew it was going to be 5 stars. I also tend to, like, I'm not mad about having a little bit of heavy stuff in my romance novels. Like, that shouldn't be the A-plot. Like, this, like, I would not call something like The 2 Lives of Lydia Bird a romance because the main focus is her getting over her grief. In this one, it is a side thing and it affects the romance, but it is not the main thing, which is her being like, shit, I met this guy in the past. Does he remember me? Do I want to... But we're working together, turning herself into a pretzel, trying to, like, deal with the situation, the fact that she had this connection with this person who, for him, it was 7 years ago, and for her, it was yesterday. The will they, won't they of it, all of that stuff. It was so good. This is another one that's like a little bit lighter on the spice, but it's not non-existent. Like, it is still there and it's not closed door, but it is a little bit lighter on that. Those are the 6 books that I read for SteamyLit Con. I think I've come to realize that I'm just not somebody who can try and do I can try and do a book a day, but I'm more of a, like, read 2 books in one day and then take a day off type person. I don't know. I feel like it is something that I feel I should be able to do, and maybe at another time it will happen, but it just did not happen this time, and I'm not going to beat myself up about it, honestly. If you were going to read 7 books in 7 days, what books would you be choosing to read? I definitely will be trying this again at some point. I don't know that I will try it all with the same genre, though. That might be part of what kind of kicked me in the ass. If you enjoyed this video and you want more of my thoughts on romance books in general, you can check out my try a chapter video. I keep trying to call it a vlog, it's not a vlog. My try a chapter video where I tried a chapter for every romance on my shelf. Or if you want to see me try another so many books in so many days challenge, I did try the 30 books in 30 days challenge and I did much better with that one if you want to check that out. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. That is it for now, my friends. Happy reading, and I will see you later when we will talk about more wordy, nerdy things. Bye!